Hi everybody, welcome aboard. Today I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on just how to bring up the PMDG 777 for prepared from a cold and dark state. Now this is not typically how you'd receive an aircraft if you were, let's say, a captain. But that's okay. A lot of us simmers like to try this. So let's go ahead and jump into the cockpit, and we'll take a look at what we have here. So we're on the stand at London Heathrow, and this would be Air Canada, flight 855 from London Heathrow to Vancouver. So there's a few things I like to do just sort of quickly at the start, and the first is sort of a cockpit safety checklist. Let me make a note here: I am not a pilot. Aside from in the virtual space, I have taken a few lessons here and there, but none of this is obviously for official use. This is all for flight sim use only. So some of these steps are not necessarily required since we are in a simulator, but figure what the heck. So before we even look at applying power, there's a couple things I want to check. The first is that our gear is down, and it is. I want to make sure our flaps are up. And let's double check that our parking brake is set, even though we've got shocks set up. Okay, so let's move up to the overhead panel now. And I don't have views set up very well right now in Opus, but this will give you a quick overview. What we're really concerned about right now, as we continue our safety checklist, we want to make sure these hydraulic pumps are all off. And they are. Don't want anything to cause any problems for any ground crew that might be down there working on the airplane as we power up. So, first things first, I'm going to go ahead and connect the external power. And then I'll give it a second here and then choose secondary external power. Now, one of the things you're going to hear here is the plane start to go through its startup procedure. So you'll notice, first of all, none of the displays are on, and this is perfectly normal. This is how the plane starts up. Second, you're going to hear a lot of noises in the background as the plane goes through a number of its tests. You'll hear the fans come on and off. You'll hear various, almost a squeal as it tests the cockpit speaker. But again, that's okay. That's all normal. That's actually what we're looking for as the 777 comes up from a cold and dark state. A couple things we can do while we're waiting for power up. First, we can test our oxygen. So we'll go over here to the captain's side. The test button is right here, and then this is actually where you set the flow for how much oxygen you want. So you start by hitting the test button. You'll see that diamond open up and then close back on its own. But if we turn this to the max setting and hold it down, you'll actually see that this is just going to stay open. Obviously, we're in a simulator. Let's hope we don't require oxygen while we're using it. But that's sort of what you can expect on the plane. You can do it for the first officer side if you want. The behavior is the same. And actually, if you really wanted to, you could even do it back here at the jump seats. There's the oxygen mask right there for one of the observers, and I'm guessing that's the other one right there. Okay, so a couple things we can see here is that as we're starting through the power-up process, our cockpit display units, our CDUs, have come online. Now they're not going to be able to do a whole lot for us. There, you just heard the fans shut down, and then we'll hear them come back any moment. Here come our displays powering on. The 777, there, hear the fans come back. 777 has a very complex, there goes the speaker test. Has a very complex electrical load management system, so it will bring loads online and shed loads as required. As necessary as it powers up the plane. So now we're essentially in our initial power on state. Still a couple of tests going on. You see the warning annunciator is lit there, but we can see that our clock is now active. It's picked that up from the GPS. Our PFD here, at least as its display. Now we haven't aligned our Ataroos yet, so We're not getting much information there, but we are getting our artificial horizon. You can see there are a whole slew of messages here on the ICAS display. But that's okay, because we're just powering up, and just about everything else is shut down. So you can see that the cabin altitude, auto, hydraulic pressure, system left, center, and right are all shut down. Engines are obviously shut down. We don't have any landing data set or landing altitude set. Lost our SATCOM data link. That's because we don't have our ADARUs aligned. Our battery's off, obviously. TCAS is off. We have no brake source because we have no hydraulic power right now. Now you see down here at the brake accumulator, this is essentially some reserve braking power that we have. So you can see right now that light's on because we have no hydraulic source powering the brakes. But there is a reserve of about, what, 2,400 psi in the accumulator. So even if we lost all hydraulic systems, you know, on landing or something like that, you've got a few presses in there to do. Okay, continuing through our ICAS here. So we talked about brake source, emergency lights. Those are disarmed right now. SATCOM is lost. Satellite voice is lost. Hit recall. Door entry 2 left is open. We're at the gate, and we have no fuel pressure in our left and right engines, but again, that's to be expected. Let's cancel those out. So now we just have our memo messages that our parking brake is set, the no smoking sign is on, and our doors are in auto and manual. Next, you can see there are some status messages, so let's take a look down there. Actually, to make this a little easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this lower display to the captain's MFD. So you do that by going over here to our control panel. You can see you've got lower center, right inboard, left inboard, so I want to control the left inboard, and I want that to display the status page. And we'll move back over and we can see some of our messages here. So here's our hydraulic quantities, 98%, 95%, 97%. These are all low pressure, of course, because we don't have any of the hydraulic systems running. APU's shut down. Crew oxygen pressure is within normal parameters. RSCF power supply number 1. I'm guessing right and left. SCF, is that some sort of control feel system? At any rate, we don't need to worry too much about that for the time being. Okay, let's jump up to the overhead panel here and start getting the kind of the platform aligned. I'll try to get some of that sun glare off here. That's a little better. Okay, so let's turn the battery on, and we're going to get our ADARU, our Air Data Inertial Reference Unit, starting to align. If you've flown the PMDG 737, or some other Boeing-based airplanes out there, you're familiar with the IRS selectors that were up sort of in this location of the panel. You turn them to nav, give them about 10 minutes to align, and you'd be able to enter your initial position. This essentially replaces that. It's more or less the same functionality, at least for the purposes we're talking about today. So we'll continue going down this panel number 1. So thrust asymmetry compensator is in auto. Primary flight controls are in auto and guarded. IFE passenger seats, cabin utility are all on, batteries on. APU generator is in the on position, but of course the APU is shut down right now. Our bus ties are both auto. Secondary power and primary external power are both connected and on, and these are normal lights right now for our engines being shut down for our left and right generators, as well as our left and right backup generators. Moving up to panel number 2 here, ground proximity runway override. This is in the closed and guarded position. We're going to go ahead and arm the emergency lights, and those are guarded. Service interphone we can leave off, passenger oxygen closed and guarded. Window heat, we want all those on. We're going to be flying at high altitudes, of course, so don't want those windows to fog over and or crack. Ram air turbine, no indications, and guarded, that's what we want. Okay, hydraulics. So left engine primary, right engine primary, those are in the on position, but the fault light is illuminated. If you're not aware of how this works, there's multiple pumps for each hydraulic system. 2 of the systems, the right and the left, are primarily driven by the engine-driven pump. But of course our engines are shut down right now, so you see the fault light there. But we can certainly leave those switches in the on position. It doesn't cause any harm and actually makes it easier as we're going through our procedures here. Further down on the right-hand side, so these are the electric demand pump. So if for some reason the primary pump isn't running like it is now, the demand pump can take over some of the job. For normal operations, we'll put it in auto, but we're on the ground right now, so we'll leave it at off. Same thing on the left-hand side. There are two different systems, two different pumping systems for the center hydraulics. There's electric-driven pumps. There's also pneumatically air-driven pumps. For the time being, we just want to make sure those are all off. I'm going to skip the lighting section down here, move up to our fire protection. Ooh, standby. There we go. Maybe. Sorry, guys. Never know what track IR is going to give you. Okay. So, cargo fire switches are off. Our APU fire handle is in. Discharge is closed and guarded. Go ahead and run our fire overheat test. See those start to light up. And if we pop down to our main panel, we'll see that the left and right engine fire indications are on, as well as on the cutoff switches, and our fire test has passed. Okay. Back up to the overhead. Electronic engine control modes are normal and guarded for both left and right. Start switch is normal. Auto start is on. All of our fuel jettison is closed and guarded. All our pumps, fuel pumps, are off for right now. I'll have to check to see if we actually even have anything in the center tanks right now. I'm thinking we probably do, but probably not much. Anti-ice is all in auto. As far as air conditioning, equipment cooling auto, Gasper, those are the little valves above the passenger seats. Those are on. Upper and lower recirculating fans are on. Flight deck temperature and cabin temperature are just sort of in the auto 12 o'clock position. You'll notice our packs are off right now. It's because we don't have any bleed air running into the system right now, so there's no point in having the packs on. However, trim air is on. Our isolation valves, left, center, right, and APU are all in the auto position. Sorry, that's APU bleed air. It's in the auto position. And we have, again, similar to the electric hydraulic pumps for the left and right engine, we have the left and right bleeds in the on position, but they're illuminated off. That's to be expected because, again, those engines aren't running. Pressurization, forward and aft in auto, and we don't need to worry about the manual positions. Those are spring loaded, so if you move them down to close, it springs back to neutral. Move them down to open. Yeah, move them up to open, springs back to neutral. Okay, let's jump back down to the captain side here and just sort of look up at our lights. But the only thing we really need to worry about right now is we want the our navigation lights to be on. Those are the wingtip lights, which you can see as we pop out here. The red light there, green light on the right wing, and then there's a white light on the tail as well. Okay. With that, let's start our CDU pre-flight. So down here is, you'll hear a lot of people refer to it as the FMC. This technically is not the FMC. This is actually the CDU, or the Cockpit Display Unit. Now, it can connect to the FMC. Let me pull up the 2D view here because it's a little easier to see. It can connect to both the FMC and, in the real plane, to satellite communications. Additionally, it can provide other controls. You'll hear a lot of people, again, refer to it as the FMC. That's fine. I think we all kind of know what we're talking about here. But let's continue our initial pre-flight. So we're going to select from the CDU. We're going to select FMC. First things we're looking at here is to make sure that all of our initial data here is correct. So we are in a 777-300 with the GE90 115s. We are in navigation database 1504, which is valid from April 2nd through April 29th, 2015. So, position initialization. So we are currently at Heathrow, which is Echo Golf Lima Lima. And let's see if we can actually get our stand number here. We are at stand 340. Let's see if it actually pulls this information in. Yeah, that's not our database. That's okay. So, the purpose of putting the reference airport here is kind of twofold. First, it's always good to make sure that where you think you are is where you actually are. And so just by looking at what the last position of the aircraft was, as well as the center point of Heathrow Airport, we can see we're pretty close. The easiest thing to do, though, is to actually pull our GPS position here when we're initializing the ADRU. So we're going to down select our GPS position, north 51 degrees 28 minutes 5 seconds, or 0.5 seconds. West 0 degrees 28.0 seconds. Go to the previous page, we're going to up select that. So there is our inertial position. Okay, so that's going to start or complete the ADRUs lining up, or aligning. Now you'll notice that I actually selected that ADRU switch probably about 5 minutes ago. And I didn't actually enter the position of where we are until just a few seconds ago, but that's okay, because one of the things it's doing while it's aligning is it's actually measuring where it's moving, as in like the rotation of the Earth. So that's it's going to be doing that regardless once we give it an initial position. In most cases, I don't know if it's simulated here in the PMDG 777, in most cases it doesn't actually affect the alignment time. I know, I believe on the 747 and possibly some other planes, if you are at the higher polar regions, it takes it longer to do an alignment. Okay. Let's. I'm going to leave the route page alone for now and just finish up the captain's pre-flight procedure. A couple things we want to make sure here is that all of our navigation transfer display switches are all in their normal position. We want to make sure the clock is accurate, or as accurate as it can be in Flight Simulator, which if you've used it much, you know what I'm talking about. Down here we've got our brake source light illuminated, that's expected. Inboard displays, I have it in the MFD mode. If you want it in nav all the time, you can flip it over to the nav side. You can also have it display the PFD in case your outboard unit here has a failure. And you can also have it display the ICAS in case the ICAS unit has a failure. Okay, so our platform is aligned, and let's go ahead and run through our pre-flight checklist. Actually, we're going to do one more thing first, and that is we're going to pull up ATIS, the Airport Terminal Information Service, because we want to get the wind data and the altimeter data. Now, I'm setting it down here on this control panel, but what I'm actually going to do, just in case you're not familiar with this, is if you click the microphone button here, it'll bring you a 2D pop-up. Maybe. Hello. There we go. That'll give you a 2D pop-up display of your radios. So a couple things you have to note. Now, this is a highly realistic simulation of the 777. So, if you want to transmit on your radio, you need to choose one of these buttons here. So for instance, if I want to transfer or communicate on the left VHF, which is the captain's, probably what I want to do, I need to make sure that mic button is selected. Now I can only transmit on one of these at any given time. So for instance, if we're talking to ATC on the left VHF, we want to make a PA announcement to the passengers in the back. We need to go over to this PA switch, and during that time we will not be able to speak with air traffic control. So we'll go over back to the left VHF. Now these are for transmitting. These lower ones here with the arrows are for receiving. So I can listen to the left VHF, the center VHF, the right VHF. I can actually listen to all of them at one time. Very real chance for overload there. But depending on your cockpit configuration, you may want to be listening on both VHF left and right if you're using vPilot on VATSIM. It supports working with both of those. If you are using some of the ground services simulations, you want to talk to the over the service interphone, you can do that as well. But I'm using Active Skynex, so 122.0 is the frequency for ATIS, so let's pick
Echo,
up
Golf, Lima, Lima, airport information, Charlie, 1620, Zulu, weather, wind, 25, 1 at 15, visibility, 10, sky condition, few clouds at 4,900, temperature 13, dew point 2, QNH 1011. Advice on initial contact, you have information.
Okay, so that was Heathrow information Charlie, winds were 251 at 15 knots, visibility 10 miles, a few clouds at 4,900, temperature 13, dew point 2, and QNH 1011. Now, if you have not done much flying outside of the United States, you may have seen this whole inches HPA setting on the baro, on your altimeter setting. So we are flying in Europe. They use hectopascals, so I have switched it, our units from inches to hectopascals. You can see down here that by default we're at 1013. I'm going to go ahead and set that to 1011, and I look against the chart and I see that our airport elevation here at Heathrow is about 100 feet, so that's aligned. I have mine, my PMDG set up so that it syncs the barometric setting across all the altimeters, but let's take a look at the standby. That is at 100 feet, but it is in inches. Let's switch over to hectopascals, 1011. And again, on the first officer side, I'll switch him over to hectopascals, and 1011. Okay, now that we've done that, let's do our pre-flight checklist. So, oxygen, we have tested, they're at 100%. Flight instruments, we have looked at the altimeter settings. We actually didn't look at the heading settings, so let's double check. That's about, 128? 128 and 28, there we go. Okay, so flight instruments have been checked. Now this is kind of where the 777 is pretty cool in that it can automatically and does automatically detect certain checklist items. So for instance, it knows that our parking brake is set, so it automatically checks that for us. It knows that our fuel control cutoff switches are in cutoff, and it knows that for us. So now you can see down here at the bottom, our checklist is complete. Okay, that concludes the initial pre-flight. The next video will cover flight management computer initialization and possibly engine startup as well. Thanks for watching.